Hi Anna, my name is Matthew and I'm 28 years old. I live in Basingstoke and I work in logistics. I felt compelled to make this video today because, looking at your audience and hearing what they have to say, hearing what you have to say, I think I have something different to add to the table and to the conversation. And I think there's one question that we're all deep down asking, whether it's out vocally or inside ourselves, and that is, when will life go back to normal, and when will everything return to normal? The thing is, the death rates at the moment, they've plummeted to near zero, and so every day there's one or two deaths, and we don't know whether they really had COVID or they just tested positive and died of other causes. Probably that's the case. But what I found quite interesting recently is I came across a piece of information that showed that the World Health Organization back in 2009 changed the definition of what it meant to have a pandemic. And if you go back to their website and compare from May 2009 to the beginning of 2009, and this was coinciding with the outbreak of H1N1, and the definition changed to be concerned about cases, or to be concerned about deaths, to be concerned about cases. So the original definition was saying that there needs to be an outbreak and an enormous amount of deaths. And then after the H1N1 or during the H1N1 pandemic, the definition changed to be more concerned about cases and including mild cases. Now, children have been denied their right to have a decent education, and they're being denied the right to see their family and friends and have that human interaction, and that's dehumanizing the children and the adults. And adults are being denied the right to earn a living, and they're being denied the right to move freely among people without that fear of public shaming, and being denied the right to even breathe freely, breathe the air around us. And it's clear that life is never going to return to normal in the same way the beginning of 2020 began. And because even if every measure and rule was reversed tomorrow, the damage that's done will be everlasting and will be with us. And even if we stand up against this tyranny that we're facing from governments and this change that we're told to embrace, if we resist against that, then we will be left with a different world. So unfortunately, for everyone who enjoyed the normal that we happen to have pre-2020, that is never going to return. We have to change with the times, but it is that change that we need to control as society and as individuals. We're facing unprecedented employment levels, and many industries are going to suffer a fallout of the government actions, because make no mistake about it, it wasn't the virus that told everyone to lock down. It was the government's actions and their decisions, and everybody that willingly complied and complicitly complied with their dictatorial measures of making sure that people cannot earn a living and businesses cannot operate. And for a short period of time, we can all agree that maybe that should have happened, but certainly not for this a length of time, and the damage that is done is just going to be devastating, and certainly in the next 6 months we're going to see a lot of that. And we need to hold the government to account. And I'm constantly coming across people who say that we as individuals, unless we have been to university, that we cannot talk about these topics because we're not an expert, and we need the qualifications to have an opinion and to voice an opinion, and we cannot self-educate ourselves. And the internet is not a valid resource for self-learning. So the only people that we should be listening to are the experts, but even they don't agree as a community on the way forward as a society. But these experts tell us that the virus will never disappear and we're always going to have to live with this virus. And we know that the virus will mutate just like the way the flu mutates, and we have to get a new flu or a different flu vaccine. Even if there was a safe vaccine, we know that we're going to have this vaccine every year. So I've got a few points that I feel are the myths that are floating around in the mainstream society that everyone seems to believe, and yet I don't think are true. So the first myth, COVID-19 is the number one threat to everyone's lives and to human existence. And we don't know enough about the coronaviruses, so the government have had to implement the precautionary principle to every aspect of our lives. We don't know enough about, and a rise in measuring cases will result in a rise in deaths. Natural herd immunity does not apply to this virus, and the only cure is to be a vaccine. Antibodies are the primary way of detecting whether someone is immune from the virus. For those who do not know, research T cells and the other cells that help our immune system block out viruses. And healthy and young people cannot rely on their own immune systems to fight off this virus. The vaccine will be safe for all people, and there will be no side effects, long or short term. We can eliminate the spread of the virus through social isolation. So we know that it's possible to control the spread of a virus, but it's important that we understand the difference of eliminating the virus versus slowing the spread or stopping the spread. Because when we were told to stay at home, it was on the basis that we were to reduce the pressure on the NHS, and everyone did that for a number of weeks, and we can understand the logic in that. And so when moving forward, it's completely natural for viruses to spread from person to person, and the most vulnerable in our society are going to be the most susceptible to dying. So if the main criteria for going back to normal is the number of cases, then we're asking for the impossible. We're expecting to open schools and workplaces and to test, increasingly test more and more, and expect to not show any signs of cases. And so the more positive results from cases, the more likely we're going to have a second lockdown. And the question is, when we have, if we have a second lockdown, will that be based on cases? Also, mandating the masks in schools, I think, has made the government shoot themselves in the foot, because they're telling us that masks work and they prevent the spread of viruses. But when we start testing our children in schools, and we're told they have to wear masks, and then there are outbreaks in the schools, it just shows that the masks do not work in the first place. Or it shows that the PCR test is not accurate. And so either way you look at this, it shows that these measures do not work, the testing does not work. And the PCR tests can easily be contaminated, they show false positives and false negatives, and it cannot be 100% relied upon. And to have a test that cannot be 100% relied upon should not be able to dictate the national policy that government is going by. And so the vast majority of people that do not get sick, but who test positive for the virus, they are what you call asymptomatic. Everyone knows this. It feels as though life is currently on hold and we're waiting for a second wave, or we're waiting for a vaccine, and we're told that the cure is coming. I've heard countless conversations but we can't go back to normal until we have a vaccine. And that's just everyday people, and they're just spouting what the mainstream media are telling us. And so we have a number of questions that we need to start asking our government. And since the original lockdown, because that was based on deaths, will the second lockdown be based on deaths as well? And what will the lockdown mean for this country? Will it mean staying at home? Will it mean curfews? Will it mean checkpoints? Will it mean that schools stay open and children still have an education? But will they be socially isolated as well? Will the government be setting up quarantine camps similar to New Zealand and having to separate their families who test positive for the virus? And we know that the NHS, they're already about 6 months behind on their standard operations and scheduled appointments. And will the patients be able to afford another 6 months of delay? Once we have a vaccine, will it become mandatory? And this is the number one question everybody's asking, everyone's concerned about. When people protested this weekend, or whichever weekend, will we be required to show proof of that vaccination in order to operate our daily lives? We asking this question, and we need answers from the government. We need the assurances from the government that aren't being put into place, and we need to hold them accountable, because at the moment the media are not holding them accountable for any of these questions. So we have to do that job for them, and which is why I think voicing our opinions like this out into the public is so important. So we've had very little scrutiny in Parliament, and in fact they've all just gone on for a nice little summer break, of course well deserved. And one of the most concerning things is this the Great Reset that's coming out from the World Economic Forum. And when you look into this, this is meant to be a global transformation of a complete change of society, and political, economical, technological and social transformations to change the structure of our decision making. And so it will change our relationships with not only each other as a society, but also the planet Earth and its natural resources, because they want to control the planet Earth and natural resources so they control ourselves. And this plan consists of a centralized control system, a top-down centralized control system working towards a world global governance. And the conspiracy theory term New World Order is not a conspiracy if you look at the UN and their own literature. And so we also see that this reset plan, the national reset plan, is in our own councils and the NHS. If you look at the type in Google NHS reset plan, there's talks of this. The councils, if you look at West Sussex, Norfolk, Solihull and Stroud, they all have reset or restart plans within their own literature. So I conclude, and at the end I want to share a speech with you all, if you hang by. People need hope, and they need a way out of this, and our so-called leaders are not providing this to the public. We're going down a slippery slope where our democracy is being overruled by a technocracy, where there is no end in sight for this so-called pandemic, and our freedoms and rights are being stripped away. Many feel that the government will eventually give our freedoms back, and those shouting like myself about their loss of freedoms are just overreacting. In Britain, we have a long history of fighting for our freedoms and rights, and we know that we cannot take them for granted. So this is where I leave you. I leave you with a speech. I have adapted this speech from The Great Dictator, performed by Charlie Chaplin, to make it more fitting with current times. This was written in a time where fascism was the most prevailing threat to our democracy and our freedoms, and I believe that fascism and communism are the most prevailing threat still to this day. And I want to share this speech with you, as I'm sure you've all heard before, but I want to share it again so we can remind ourselves the words said then as they are true today, now. We all want to help one another. Human beings are like that. We want to live by each other's happiness, not by each other's misery. We don't want to hate and despise one another. In this world, there is room for everyone, and the good earth is rich and can provide for everyone. The way of life can be free and beautiful, but we have lost the way. Greed has poisoned men's souls, has barricaded the world with hate, has goose-stepped us into misery and bloodshed. We have developed speed, but we have shut ourselves in. Machinery that gives us an abundance has left us in want. Our knowledge has made us cynical, our cleverness hard and unkind. We think too much and we feel too little. More than machinery, we need humanity. More than cleverness, we need kindness and gentleness. Without these qualities, life will be violent and all will be lost. The internet has brought us closer together, but further apart. Now my voice is reaching millions throughout the world, millions of despairing men, women, and little children, victims of a system that makes men torture and imprison innocent people. To those who can hear me, I say, do not despair. The misery is now upon us is but the passing of greed, the bitterness of man who fear the way of human progress. The hate of man will pass and dictators will die, and the power that they took from the people will return to the people. And so long as men die, liberty will never perish. Don't give yourselves to these brutes, men who despise you, enslave you, and regiment your lives, tell you what to do, tell you what to think and what to feel. You are not machines, you are not cattle, you are men, women, and children. You have the love of humanity in your hearts. Do not hate. Only the unloved hate, and the unloved and the unnatural. Don't be a slave. You, the people, have the power, the people to create happiness. You, the people, have the power to make this life free and beautiful, to make this life a wonderful adventure. Then, in the name of democracy, let us use that power and let us unite.